What if I told you the moment you stopped caring was the moment you started winning? Not fake apathy, not pretending. I'm talking about truly, fully letting go of needing to be liked, of needing to be understood, of needing anyone to stay. That moment, that's when everything changes. Because the man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't fold, who doesn't seek approval, he becomes untouchable. You've been trained to think that the more you care, the stronger you are. That loyalty equals worth. That pouring yourself into people and outcomes somehow makes you noble. But the truth is darker, colder, and more powerful. Caring too much makes you visible, predictable, vulnerable to manipulation. It gives your power away, and the more they know they can affect you, the less they respect you. Let me break it down. When you care too deeply about what others think, you move for them, you shrink for them, you compromise your edge. And the moment they realize you're emotionally reactive, they start pulling strings. Whether it's a woman playing games, a boss withholding validation, or so-called friends who keep you chasing their approval, they all thrive on your overinvestment. But when you go cold, not bitter, not angry, just emotionally independent, everything flips. You stop trying to impress. You stop defending yourself. You stop asking for permission. And suddenly, the world reacts differently. They lean in. They wonder why you're calm, why you're unaffected, why you don't chase what everyone else does. That's the power of dark detachment, not caring because you're weak, but because you're focused. The less you need, the more power you hold. The less you explain, the more mystery you create. And the man who doesn't care about being accepted, he becomes the one who's followed, feared, respected. If you've ever reached that breaking point, if you've ever looked around and realized caring got you nowhere, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real masculine wisdom and comment below. I move in silence. I care with purpose. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Caring too much is a weakness in disguise. You were told that caring deeply made you strong, that giving your all, your energy, your time, your loyalty, was a sign of character. But when you look at how the world really works, you start to see the cracks. Because the more you care, the more you expose. The more you invest without boundaries, the more control you hand over. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Caring too much doesn't make you powerful. It makes you vulnerable. People aren't blind. They can feel when you care too much, when you're too available, when you're desperate to be needed. And some will take that and respect it, but most will use it. Because emotional overinvestment is leverage. If someone knows they can provoke a reaction, they own your focus. If they know you'll show up no matter how they treat you, your value drops instantly. People don't chase what they already own. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming calculated, strategic. You're not cutting off your ability to care. You're controlling where it goes. You start asking, is this person worthy of my attention? Is this situation aligned with my growth? Or am I just trying to be accepted? Because the harsh truth is this: if you don't guard your emotional energy, someone else will use it for their entertainment. A man who cares recklessly is a man who bleeds for people who wouldn't even hand him a bandage. And in the world of power, attraction, and dominance, that man never wins. The one who does, he keeps his energy in check. He gives with intention. He pulls back when disrespected. And when necessary, he disappears completely, not to prove a point, but to protect his peace. Number 2. Detachment is a man's superpower. Detachment isn't weakness. It's not apathy. It's not being numb. It's precision. It's power. It's the ability to feel everything, but not be ruled by anything. The man who can stay calm when provoked, steady when tested, silent when disrespected, That man is operating on a different frequency, and that frequency is rare. Most people are emotionally exposed. They react fast. They argue, they chase, they explain themselves into exhaustion. But a detached man, he doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need validation. He's not moved by chaos. And because of that, people don't know how to handle him. They can't read him. They can't control him. Detachment makes you unpredictable, and unpredictable men are dangerous. When you master detachment, everything changes. You stop losing sleep over people who were never committed. You stop wasting time on women who use attention as currency. You stop responding to every insult like it deserves a reply. You no longer live on the emotional leash of others. Instead, you move on your terms, calm, strategic, focused. And here's the paradox. The more detached you are, the more magnetic you become. People are drawn to what they can't shake, what they can't influence, what they can't manipulate. Detachment doesn't repel, it attracts. Because it shows you have options. You're not desperate. You're not weak. You're grounded. This is the core of dark masculine wisdom. Not needing the world to bend for you, but becoming so composed that the world adjusts around you. You stop begging for energy. You start commanding respect, not by force, but by refusing to chase what's beneath you. Detachment isn't an absence of emotion, it's total control over where that emotion goes. Number 3, emotionally unavailable, not equal broken. It means evolved. People love to throw the label around, emotionally unavailable, as if it's a flaw, as if it means something is wrong with you. But here's the reality. You're not broken. You're just no longer naive. You've felt too much. You've been burned by your own intensity. You've given too much to people who gave you nothing back. And somewhere along the way, you realized that being emotionally available to the wrong people is the fastest path to destruction. You're not cold, you're calibrated. You're not afraid of emotions. You've just learned to stop leaking them everywhere. That's not dysfunction, that's evolution. Because a man who reacts to everything is a man who can be led anywhere. But a man who observes, calculates, and responds only when necessary, that man can't be moved unless he chooses to be. You've stopped offering unlimited access to people who haven't earned it. That's not toxic, that's self-respect. You've stopped explaining your value to those who ignore it. That's not arrogance, that's clarity. You've stopped placing your peace in someone else's hands. That's not emotional unavailability, it's sovereignty. The truth is, most people are emotionally entitled. They want you wide open, vulnerable, easy to read, so they can decide how much to invest based on your neediness. But when you go quiet, when you don't play their game, when you don't react the way they expect, you become a mirror, and they don't like what they see. Being unavailable doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've elevated. You don't give your soul to people who trade in moments. You don't offer your loyalty to temporary comfort. You're not broken. You've just outgrown the belief that love means bleeding on command. Now you love with standards, and that changes everything. Number 4, focus is the ultimate flex. Nothing in this world is more intimidating than a man who's locked in on his purpose, not chasing validation, not obsessing over who stayed or who left, just quietly building, consistently improving, completely unfazed. Because when you stop caring about attention and start caring about results, you become untouchable. Focus is rare. Most people are distracted, scattered by emotions, cravings, gossip, and meaningless noise. But the man who removes all that, who detaches from drama, who declines empty connections, who doesn't flinch when ignored, he becomes a weapon, not just in business or fitness, but in life. His presence becomes intimidating, not because he's loud, but because he's completely unbothered. You're not posting to impress. You're not reacting to be seen. You're working quietly, relentlessly. That kind of energy hits different. Women notice, your enemies notice. People feel the shift when you stop needing recognition and start moving purely for yourself. Because the second you stop caring about being understood, you start being respected. That's the flip. They can't pull you off course with a text. They can't bait you with silence. They can't trap you in their emotional loops. Because your attention is expensive now, and you don't spend it on cheap things. That's power. Real power. The kind that doesn't yell. It just executes. You don't need to flex online. Your discipline is your flex. Your results are your receipts. And your detachment? That's the boundary that keeps you in control. This is what separates you from the average man. Not money, not muscles. Focus. Relentless, quiet focus. The less you care about distractions, the more the world starts to notice your presence and fear your silence. Number 5. Your indifference creates intrigue. The moment you stop chasing, they start watching. That's the paradox. When you care too much, they pull away. But when you pull back, not to play games but because you've leveled up, suddenly you're a mystery. Indifference flips the dynamic. You no longer orbit them. Now they start orbiting you. People are wired to chase what's elusive. Predictability is boring. Certainty kills curiosity. But indifference makes them wonder. They start asking questions they never considered when you were showing up consistently. Why isn't he texting me? Did he move on? Who's he talking to now? That mental loop spins harder the longer you stay silent, because silence from a man who once cared is deafening. You didn't go cold, you just stopped offering energy where it wasn't valued. You stopped showing up for people who thought you'd always be there. That absence doesn't go unnoticed, it becomes intrigue. You're no longer emotionally available, and that creates scarcity. And scarcity breeds desire. That's the dark edge of detachment. When you no longer need their validation, they start craving yours. This is where your presence shifts from expected to exclusive. You become a question mark in their story, and question marks always demand attention. You don't need to do anything loud or flashy. Just continue moving in silence, elevating, becoming more and more difficult to access. The people who once took you for granted will start to feel your indifference like a pressure they can't ignore. You're not doing it to manipulate. You're doing it because your time, your mind, your peace, they're no longer up for negotiation. And that shift, that's what makes you unforgettable, not because you tried to be, but because you stopped trying at all. Number 6, you stop playing their game. When you care too much, you get pulled into their rules, their pace, their chaos. You text back too fast. You explain yourself when it's not required. You try to prove your worth in situations that never deserved you. And before you know it, you're playing their game and losing. But the second you stop caring, really stop, the game collapses. You no longer respond out of emotion. You no longer chase breadcrumbs. You no longer show up when they offer the bare minimum. You step back, you observe, you detach. And suddenly, the person who used to have control over your mind doesn't know how to reach you anymore. You're no longer reactive, you're strategic. They try to trigger you, you don't flinch. They try to bait you, you don't bite. They test your silence, your distance, your discipline, and it rattles them. Because their tactics don't work on you anymore. You've upgraded, you've exited the loop, and now the only game you play is the one you control. You're not cold, you're just done. Done explaining, done overgiving, done waiting on people who don't respect your presence. You've seen what happens when you care more than they do, and you're never going back. Your peace isn't just a luxury now, it's a requirement. This is how you reclaim power, quietly, consistently, Not by fighting harder, but by stepping off the battlefield entirely. Let them play emotional chess with someone else. You've got better things to build. And when they realize they can't move you anymore, when they see you've stopped reacting entirely, that's when they know they lost something real. Not because you told them, but because you no longer care to play. Number 7. The world bows to the man who doesn't flinch. Every day the world tests you. People test you. Situations test you. A sideways comment, a delayed reply, a calculated rejection. All subtle ways to see if they can shake you, if they can make you flinch. Because once they know they can move you emotionally, they know where to apply pressure. And most men, they crack, they react, they explain. But not you, not anymore. You've learned that the man who doesn't flinch holds the power. The man who hears disrespect but responds with silence. The man who feels the sting of betrayal but stays calm. That man becomes a problem. Because nothing is more unsettling than someone who won't give you the reaction you expected. People are used to emotional chaos. They're used to triggering others and watching the fireworks. But when you give them nothing, no shift in tone, no explosion, no proof that they affected you, you break their rhythm. Now they're the ones off balance. They're questioning themselves, doubting their moves, wondering why you're not playing the part they scripted for you. That's control. Quiet, calculated control. You're not flexing for attention. You're not arguing for closure. You're simply unmoved, not because you feel nothing, but because you've chosen not to hand your emotional power to anyone. That kind of stoicism demands respect, even from people who don't want to give it. The truth is, people can't manipulate what they can't read, and they can't dominate what won't bend. The world bows, not to the loudest man in the room, but to the calmest one. The man who doesn't flinch when provoked, doesn't panic when tested, and doesn't fold when things get quiet. That man walks differently, commands differently, wins differently, and once you become him, you don't ask for power, you carry it. Number 8. Peace is power, and power is quiet. You don't need to prove anything, not anymore, not to her, not to them, not to the world. That need to explain yourself, defend your choices, or beg to be understood. That dies when you level up, because real power, the kind that moves in silence, is rooted in peace. You're not here for chaos. You're not chasing arguments, drama, or cheap validation. You've had that life. You've felt the emotional whiplash of people who say one thing and do another. And now, you've walked away from it all, not because you're afraid to feel, but because you're finally choosing what's worth feeling. That's the shift. You don't react to everything because not everything deserves your energy. This is where most men fall off. They mistake noise for strength. They think dominance means raising your voice, clapping back, forcing your presence. But the most dangerous man in the room is the one who doesn't have to say a word. He sits, he watches, he listens, and when he moves with purpose. That kind of energy, it can't be faked. It's earned through restraint. You don't fight for attention anymore. You're done performing. Your peace isn't just personal, it's strategic. Because people can't manipulate what they can't disrupt. They try to push your buttons and find out. You've disconnected them. They test you and get no reaction. They vanish and expect you to chase. But you're already somewhere else, building, evolving, rising. This is dark masculine wisdom, understanding that peace isn't the absence of power. Peace is power mastered. It's the highest form of control, not over others, but over yourself. You don't need the last word. You don't need the spotlight. You don't need the applause. You've got your mission, and your silence is loud enough. Number 9. She'll test you. You pass by not reacting. It always starts subtle. She pulls back. delays a reply, brings up an ex, pushes a boundary just to see what you'll do. That's not random, it's a test. She wants to know where your edge is, how stable your frame is, whether you bend when things get uncomfortable. And most men fail. They react, they over-explain, they chase, they give her the emotional upper hand. But not you, because you've learned the truth. You don't pass her test with words, you pass it with silence, with stillness, with calm, steady indifference. You don't respond to provocations that don't serve you. You don't try to fix what was broken on purpose. You recognize the test, and you walk straight through it, untouched. That's what gets her attention. Not the effort, not the explanations, the control. Women aren't drawn to emotional chaos. They're drawn to composure, to the man who doesn't need to prove his value, because it's already written in how he carries himself. The more she tries to shake you and finds no weakness, the more she respects you. She might not admit it. She might even get more erratic. But behind the scenes, the calculation is happening. This man can't be moved. This man knows who he is. You don't play emotional tug-of-war anymore. You've stopped reacting to every shift in tone, every change in mood. You're not trying to fix her uncertainty. You've become your own certainty. That's the test she never saw coming. You pass not by giving her what she expects, but by doing the opposite, by doing nothing at all. She'll test your silence. She'll test your discipline. She'll try to provoke a version of you that no longer exists. And that's the real win. Not because you beat her, but because you mastered yourself. Number 10. The less you care, the more you win. It sounds backwards, but it's the truth. The less you care, the more power you hold. Not because you've gone numb, not because you're bitter, but because you finally stopped trying to control what was never yours to own. You're no longer driven by who stays or who leaves. You're not moved by approval, praise, or attention. You've detached, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because what you can walk away from can never control you. When you stop caring, really stop, life starts bending differently. People start respecting your time. Women start responding to your absence. Enemies start questioning your silence. Because indifference doesn't scream, it whispers something dangerous. I don't need you. And when you stop needing, you stop bleeding. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Most men tie their identity to being needed, wanted, validated. But the high-value man, he ties it to his mission, his code, his direction. That's why he wins. Not because he's trying to prove anything, but because he's done trying altogether. He's moving with intention. He's locked in. And if you align with that, great. If you don't, he doesn't even slow down. That's dark masculine wisdom, knowing that detachment isn't losing, it's filtering. You're not harder to reach because you're hiding. You're harder to reach because you're finally protecting your energy like it's gold. You've seen what happens when you care too much. Now you've flipped the switch. No more overthinking, no more chasing, no more proving. You're not heartless, you're focused. And in this world, the man who needs nothing owns everything. You've spent enough of your life overthinking, overgiving, over-explaining. And where did it get you? Drained, ignored, off balance. But that version of you, he's gone. Because now you know the truth. When you stop caring, you stop bleeding power. You stop handing your peace to people who never earned it. You stop trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. You've chosen silence over noise, discipline over drama, purpose over approval. And in doing that, you've unlocked something most men never will: emotional independence. Now you're not reacting to life, you're running it. And the more you detach from what doesn't serve you, the more life starts aligning with what does. This is what dark masculine wisdom looks like. quiet strength, ruthless clarity, calm control. No more chasing, no more explaining, just forward. If you've outgrown the noise, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I need nothing, I control everything. Thanks for watching. Stay focused, stay sharp, and remember, when you master detachment, you master everything. Until next time, stay relentless.